I mean, just give us your take then on the Elon Musk offering to fund fund cases against those that are deemed to be directly or indirectly, possibly even indirectly, responsible for covering up grooming gangs. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ian. How are you?
Good as gold.
Sometimes since I've been on your show, and I certainly haven't got a script.
But, you sure about that?
No, absolutely not. So, yeah, this all happened because, as you know, we raised around £600,000 from 20,000 people for our rape gang inquiry, because Reform under Nigel said they would do it, and when they didn't do it, I decided it should be done. So we've done it, and we're running it in the way we think it should be run, and we've identified that this vileness has been happening in, as you quite rightly say, 85 local authority areas. Yeah. Now, that means it's probably more towns and cities than that. And I've had a lot of people who've actually pointed out to me that you haven't mentioned Swindon, or you haven't mentioned Redruth, and you haven't mentioned other places where they're absolutely sure that this blot on our history has been happening for a long period of time, while the authorities, and that's all of them, from the police, social services, obviously local authorities, the NHS, virtually everybody who must have known this was happening have been turning and looking the other way. So we put out an interim update of where we'd got to, and we've now gathered the evidence we want with the help of the wonderful Sammy Woodhouse, who is herself a victim of this violence. And we are hoping to have our hearing in November, when we'll then produce a report. But we announced this yesterday, and extraordinarily, Elon Musk pinned our update to his own Twitter account, or X account. And then he followed that up by saying that he would help fund legal cases against those people who had been empowered to avoid exactly this and had not done their job. Yeah. So I think, from my point of view, we do believe that with our relatively meagre £600,000, when you think the J report cost £186 million, yes. We're making 5p do the job of a pound. So if we have any money left, we do have the option of taking out private prosecutions, and that we will intend to do against selected targets. Because I think it is such a scandal. It's gone on for so long. And as you probably know, I made some fairly outrageous speeches well, they're not outrageous, they're just telling the truth, in Parliament in January. And that's really, I think, changed the way everybody views this topic, even though at the time I came in for a lot of criticism, particularly from Labour and the Lib Dems. But it's extraordinary to me that we have a whole structure that's designed to protect British citizens, and it's failed in its duty for such a long period of time for a variety of reasons. I'm delighted Elon is happy to support us in any way he can. Obviously, money is the ammunition which makes things possible. But just his moral support and his support on Twitter, or X, is fantastic. Yeah. Because with 226.5 million followers, that's the equivalent of over 3 times the size of the UK.
Yeah, it's significant stuff, that's for sure. And by the way, I used to find it extraordinary, Rupert, when you would make speeches on this area in Parliament, and you'd hear particularly the Lib Dem and the Labour benches almost shouting you down and, you know, shame on this man, without even having a moment to realise that the lack of self-unawareness was extraordinary. They were highlighting the very problem that you are highlighting, and that is this kind of extraordinary sense of this cannot be true, you're making it up, we can't speak like this. That's how we got in this place in the beginning.
Well, I don't think, Ian, until we own up to what has happened and we're honest and transparent about the way in which it's happened, it's going to be very difficult to rebuild trust in any form of public body. And I think, you know, we've got to get our nationalist sort of soul back, and I think we've almost been crushed by this dishonesty. So let's start by getting this out in the open, by bringing those perpetrators who should have done better to book, and if necessary, send them to prison. Then I think it's going to be very difficult to move on.
Yeah.
And I think we have to start there. And then we have to, as you know, move on to detaining and deporting illegal migrants who are arriving, illegal migrants who are living here, foreign criminals in our prisons. I'd like to see them deported, and the 10,500 of them. And as you know, my issue with Nigel Farage was over my speech in Northwest Essex, which I gave in January in Kemi Badenoch's constituency, where he tried to edit my speech. He tried to take out the word mass from deportations, which I agreed to do. And if you watch my speech there, you'll see the word mass didn't appear, but deportations did. And he also tried to take out my line about deporting the families of those people who are dual nationals who knew that this rape was happening in their family and didn't report it. Because that is effectively, as you know, in this country, aiding and abetting somebody who's breaking the law is in itself illegal. And so therefore, I would deport them too. I have never at any stage said that legal migrants who live here should be deported. I have made it quite clear what I think the initial target should be and how we should approach what I think is a scandal which is damaging the structure of Britain. And we have to stop it now. It's possible to stop it. We just need the will to do it. That's what's lacking in.
Indeed. Are you saying, Rupert, that Nigel Farage has stolen your work?
I don't think he's stolen my work, but I think he's a follower, not a leader. And whilst I spent a lot of time working with him, and I think I played my part in building up reform support, but once we'd won the argument and we were going to win the election, I wanted to know what the plan was, where the shadow cabinet was, where the policy was, where the structure and where the plan was. And I think people can sort of see that Nigel's making it up as he goes along. And, bringing in people like Mohammed Zia Yusuf as chairman of Reform, I mean, he'd done nothing to build reform till Nigel brought him in. And at the end of the day, bringing free radicals into a party which has effectively relied on loyalty and long service of people like myself, both in the Brexit Party. Before that, I obviously did it in different places, in the Referendum Party. Then I did a lot for Vote Leave, and then obviously the Brexit Party. I think some credit has to go to Richard Tice. He and people like myself and Ben Habib kept it going when Nigel went off to, in his own words, make money. So, I don't really want to divide what I call common sense thought, but equally, I don't want to see somebody who isn't going to deliver for the people elected as our next Prime Minister. I mean, Boris failed us, and I think there are some very similar characteristics between Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage, and we need serious leadership that's this time going to deliver. And it won't deliver it, Ian, without a plan.
And Nigel Farage says he has a plan. He announced it yesterday in Oxford to a lot of fanfare, and whether there was a bit of political plagiarism going on. I mean, let's face it, that happens all over the place. I mean, even Kemi Badenoch had the gall yesterday to say it was her idea. For goodness sake, I don't know where she pulled that one from, but nonetheless, he says he's in full control. Reform UK are riding high in the polls. It looks like, based on that recent polling just from a few hours ago, they're going to win. And yet Elon Musk describing as weak sauce who will do nothing. So you agree with Elon Musk?
Well, I think Elon Musk's comments in January were the genesis of the issue between Nigel and I, because he said Nigel wasn't the man to deliver Britain from its current malaise back then. And, I think he was right. Looking back on it, I think he's obviously the world's most successful entrepreneur. He's clearly a visionary. And at the end of the day, he's a highly principled man who clearly wants to see things that have been done very badly put right in Britain. And I think I think he clearly sees himself as having a relationship with this country. It is, after all, the mother of democracy, and it's important that we try and protect what our history and the great culture that we have built up over many centuries.
And you don't think Nigel Farage can do that? You don't think he can lead and win the next election? After
what they did to me and the way in which they did it, Ian, I don't think they will deliver for the British people, no.
One of the areas that Mr. Musk did pick up on, of course, you rightly said that he first suggested you would be a better leader of Reform UK earlier in the year. Yesterday he was talking about the Advance UK party led by Ben Habib. You know what I'm going to ask you next, Rupert. There's a lot of mood music out there.
Well, can I, before you go any further, I'm going to correct you. He didn't actually say I was the right person to lead Reform. What he said is Nigel wasn't. But when asked whether I was, he said he didn't know me, but he liked what I said on X.
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
That's what he said. So people misquote.
It's a fair endorsement, though, wasn't it?
Look, I'm delighted to have the endorsement of Elon Musk. I think he is sort of global influencer that Britain is going to need if we're to be rescued from the lunacy which I witness every day in Parliament.
Indeed.
I mean, it's quite extraordinary.
So with all of that in mind, though, Rupert, would you consider then this kind of connection, this marrying up of your ideas? And I know that Restore Britain isn't a political party as such. You're kind of a think tank. Would that be fair? You're certainly
No, we're a movement. We're a movement.
A movement, that's it. I did know the word because Charlie Downs corrected me the other day.
We're a uniting movement. And I'm pleased to say we have Tories who are members. We have I think we've got some Labour voters who are members, and the Tory party have given sanction to their people becoming members of Restore. Our plan is to unite, okay? We want to unite common sense thought behind a credible plan which is going to deliver for the UK.
So would you unite with Ben Habib and the Advance Party?
I'm happy to consider uniting with anybody, but at the moment I want to unite everybody. And when I see a credible plan for delivering Britain from this current malaise, then I will either support it or I will lead it.
Have you had a conversation with Ben about this yet, Rupert?
I've spoken to Ben over many years. We served in the European Parliament together. I know Ben very well. Yeah. Advance UK is not a party at the moment, and it doesn't have electoral approvals. Advance UK calls itself a party, but it's not actually yet a party. So I'm what I say I am. I'm a movement. I've had a tremendous response, and I'm very humbled by the response we've had. I've also had some decent donations, and I've got a lot of support coming in, and we are bringing together a team of very bright, very able young people.
Sure.
And I'm pleased to say a lot of our support comes from the young. Despite the malign education that many of them have been given, where they're misinformed about most things by the education system we have here. Most of them are, I'm pleased to say, to the right of my political spectrum, because they want their country back. They want an opportunity to thrive. They don't want to see a sort of socialist quagmire within which nobody can prosper. And as I think you probably know, I've used this quote before, Solzhenitsyn said, if everybody is equal, they're not free. And I think people should remember that. People are born differently. So I think we should celebrate difference. We should celebrate those people who are able, who have natural ability. I don't see there's a problem with that. And right now, I think we've got the equation very wrong between the people who contribute, who take risk, who work hard, who dedicate themselves to actually achieving something in their lives. And we seem to reward the indolent, the lazy, the people who sort of bob and weave and avoid taking responsibility at the expense of those who do take responsibility. And successful societies, I'm sorry to say, don't reward indolence. It's one of the 7 deadly sins, as you probably know. So I think we need to reward people of enterprise, and we need to encourage and help them in every way we can. And I think that's what the young want to see now.
And just a final question on that area of where your movement goes next, what happens with Ben's party. Do you think the two of you together, though, could beat Nigel Farage?
Look, I'm not going to speculate. Ben, a deal with Advance UK is one option. A deal with the Conservative Party is another option. A deal with almost anybody, or setting up my own party is an option. Right now, I want to unite. I don't want to divide. I don't want to get into this sort of reds versus blues versus yellows versus greens. I think the country is more important than any party. And part of the problem we've got is that people put their own interests and their party interests above the interests of the country. And that's why I think a movement was and is the right structure to unite as many people as possible in. And the more people we unite, the more power we get to be able to influence. And we need to influence now. We can't wait 4 years. The damage this Labour government's doing to Britain will not be reparable if we let them continue for 4 years. I mean, we've only got to wait and see what damage Reeves is going to do in her autumn budget. I mean, they're breaking virtually every pledge that they made just over a year ago before the election. And that's the whole lot of them. That's Rayner, that's Starmer, that's Reeves. Everything they said, quite apart from Steve Reed promising he wouldn't put APR on farmland and then waiting till he'd won the election and then put it on. These people are twisters, Ian. They're not people who should be leading Britain. So sadly, they won a landslip election victory because the British public didn't really have any other option that they knew to vote for. And this is why we have to give them another option, which is going to deliver for Britain. And at the moment, I don't see anybody who is structured in a way which can do that. And Restore Britain, if you look at what we did with, say, Lucy Connolly, we were able to start a petition for a debate in Westminster Hall at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And by 11 o'clock at night, we had 100,000 signatures, which means there will now be a debate on the Lucy Connolly issue, which I hope she will come and join us for. So the more people who sign up to Restore Britain, the more influence we get and the more we can make common sense prevail. And it's common sense that we haven't got now in Britain. We've gone bonkers. Collectively bonkers.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I suffer that feeling on a daily basis, thinking the world had been turned upside down. Black is white, left is right, night is... I mean, goodness me, it's Alice in Wonderland territory, Rupert. Listen, we must stop there, Rupert, but great to have you on.